Hey guys, this is Yoda. In this video, we'll go over some recent changes to the Prot Paladin Lightsmith 4 set, including an undocumented nerf and quote-unquote hotfix. So recently, Prot Paladin was bugged, and a two-piece from Lightsmith was granting Masterworks. Now you may be wondering, why would the two-piece grant Masterwork? Nowhere in the tooltip does it say anything about Masterwork. So to clear some confusion there, the tooltip has not been updated since July 7th on the PTR. By the way, today is August 15th. It's been over a month. When they added functionality to the 4-piece. The functionality is that if you generate a Masterwork stack, which is by proccing Hammer and Anvil at 5 stacks, then it will generate either a lesser weapon or a lesser bulwark, or lesser armament, basically, is what it says. And they accidentally put that on the 2-piece. When the season went live. So recently, today, they hotfixed that. They removed that functionality. They added it only to the 4 set, so the 2 set only comes with the extra Blessed Hammer procs and increased Hammer and Anvil damage, which is a pretty big nerf, you know, if you only wear the 2-piece. But if you wear the 4-piece, that's not much of a change. However, what they did not mention is that there is another undocumented nerf, which I believe happened because they reverted some code and some wires, and basically they did really poor versioning in the back end, and now we have a version of the tier set that existed previously on the PTR. So now we're going to go to my internet browser. Firstly, we will show the change to the 4 set, to the tier set bonus rather, which, as you can see, it happened on July 8th. Today is August 15th, and the tooltip is not updated. Anyway, the added functionality here was that if a stack of Masterwork is gained while at maximum stacks, a lesser armament will be cast on a nearby ally. This is not mentioned at all on live, which is kind of embarrassing. Anyway, next we will show the difference, what the actual difference is by my VOD. So this is from yesterday. As you can see, pay attention to my Masterwork tracker. Also, if you want, you can look at the buffs at the top right. Whenever, at 5 stacks, let's get when I have 5 stacks. Whenever I proc Hammer and Anvil at 5 stacks, this buff is refreshed to 30 seconds. You see there, it just went from 5 stacks 21 seconds to 5 stacks 30 seconds. Whenever I proc a Blessed Hammer, whenever I proc a Hammer and Anvil at 5 stacks, it will generate an armament and refreshes the buff to 5 stacks. It has been like this for almost all of PTR, except for like 1 week after they nerfed Lesser Weapon. I think they added this change where it's refreshes the duration at 5 stacks to make up for the damage nerf to Lesser Weapon. Unfortunately, Lesser Weapon's damage is still nerfed, and they have changed this functionality. So we'll go to a VOD from today. As you can see, I'm fighting 3 million mobs, spamming Blessed Hammer, getting Blessed Hammer and Anvil procs, but the Masterwork duration is not refreshing. It is still counting down. What does this mean for our overall? So the log from these 2 keys, as you can see, is here. Today's key, I have 1558 hits of Lesser Weapon, and in yesterday's key, I had 2274. My Lesser Weapon was doing 623k DPS, and in today's, mine is doing 481k DPS. Average hit is very close, which indicates that there was no change to the damage amount. You know, some crit percent difference, maybe some very slightly different gear, because I mean, it's like a heroic split in between now and then. But I had the 4-piece and roughly the same item level within like 3 or 4 between the 2 runs. So essentially, we have lost 140k DPS out of about 3 mil, which comes out to slightly less than 5% overall DPS loss. So basically, they accidentally nerfed Prot Paladin when they tried to fix a bug that shouldn't have been there. And it's also really hard to tell what's actually bugged because the tooltip, as we mentioned, has not been updated for over a month. I really hope they do fix this, but if they do not fix this, we're going to go over this bot a little bit more to tell you basically how to use Lesser Weapons, because my guide does not talk about how to use it when it's in this form. So with this form of Masterwork, your goal when you use Lesser Weapons is to spend as few Masterwork procs on lesser bulwarks as possible, especially when you're trying to do damage. Obviously, if the fight is literally like a complete route fight, you're trying to like output as much HPS as possible, then you would do the opposite of this. But right now, your goal is to avoid lesser bulwark as much as possible in order to do as much damage as possible with lesser armaments. So how are we going to do that? So Firstly, there's 3 rules you need to know. Number 1, if you use Sacred Weapon with 5 stacks of Masterwork, you will get 5 lesser weapons. Number 2, if you use Holy Bulwark with 5 stacks, then you get 5 lesser bulwarks. With any stacks of Masterwork, you get lesser bulwarks. So our goal is to only use Holy Bulwark at low stocks. However, the fact that Masterwork does not refresh duration adds another element to the gameplay. So basically, you want to only use lesser weapon when Masterwork is running out. That way, you don't have to rebuild your Masterwork stacks as often. So basically, imagine you hit 5 stacks and you immediately use Sacred Weapon. Well, you could have sat at those 5 stacks for 30 more seconds, where every single Hammer and Anvil proc you did generated a lesser armament. 50% chance for weapon, 50% chance for bulwark. So in that 30-second period, every time you proc Hammer and Anvil, 50% chance for lesser weapon. However, if you immediately use Sacred Weapon, then your next 5 lesser, like Hammer and Anvil procs, are not generating anything. They're only giving you Masterwork stacks. Thanks to this, in my opinion, it is best to wait until Masterwork is about to fall off and then use your Sacred Weapon with the Masterwork. Another thing to keep in mind, and then if you have Holy Bulwark available, use that too, because you want to use Holy Bulwark at 0 stacks or right when Masterwork is about to fall off, because either way, it doesn't really matter. Those Masterwork stacks were not becoming lesser weapons anyway. One other thing to keep in mind when you're doing this is that when you use wings, it will consume whatever Masterwork stacks you have to shoot out lesser weapons, because when you use wings, part of your hero talent spawns into Sacred Weapon, and that procs your Foret. I don't think it's worth delaying wings in order to play around this, since wings is such a large portion of your damage. But it is something that worth keeping in mind. For instance, if your Masterwork is about to time out, and wings is about to come up, then you can potentially spend Holy Power more aggressively by Shining Light procs to get wings up in time to consume those Masterwork stacks, so they don't just like time out basically. Whereas before they couldn't time out at all, right? So you didn't have to play around that. Anyway, that is how Prot Paladin has changed. None of it has been documented. The tooltip obviously has been out of date for a month, so we're kind of wondering if whoever's changing Paladin is capable of documenting changes at all. But anyway, if things do get changed in the future, then obviously this will change as well. But this is how I play Prot Paladin on the current live servers. Anyway, thanks for watching. Peace out.